Mr. Vessel, welcome back to the channel, baby. So bionano genomics is who we're going to talk about today. They're up over 3.14%. I know some of you guys have been averaging down just like me, and some bought in the dippity dip of $5.12 or $5.20. So since that bottom, it's risen about 10%. So today we're going to be talking about some good news sent to me by our beloved Bngo cowboy Gaff. So let's talk about an interesting member of staff that came from Illumina. Let's also talk about C19 testing and the labs, as well as this old video when Bngo hit $15 in February. The institutions, what have they done since? Have they bought? Have they sold? Have they averaged up? And I want to look in particular to a couple of those big boys. I want to look at Vanguard and I want to look at Geode. Before we get into this video, remember, none of this is financial advice. I just want to thank everybody for loving and supporting this channel. Thank you to everybody that donates. Thank you to everybody that is a channel member for 99 cents or above. I appreciate you guys so much. If you're able to support and join the channel, click the join button above my head, or you can send donations in the PayPal link in my description box below. And whenever I receive donations, I'm jumping in my house. I'm so happy. So I thank you so much for always supporting my work. I thank you guys. But if you're unable to send any donations, just you hitting the like button, clicking subscribe, dropping me a comment means the world to me. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the video. Yeehaw! Thank you to our South End cowboy who sent me this information today. He said, hey man, more good news. He basically sent me Cantaloupe or Lope's stock twit. So Cantaloupe dropped a message on the stock twits board, and he was talking about the former head of brands from Illumina, now as a senior director of marketing at Bionano. So we scooped him up. So who was he on about? Who was this mystery member of staff? It was no other than Stephanie Hoyle. She is now the Senior Director Corporate Marketing at Bionano Genomics. And if we scroll down, you'll see, boom, she was actually at Illumina for 7 years, 6 months. And as the head of brand program, she oversaw corporate brand, including governance, mergers and acquisitions. She also developed a strategy for them to evolve. So what she set was tactics, KPI, timeline, and she was managing a team of brand strategists. Shout out to Henry because he messaged Richard Shippey and he said, what do you think about this, man? Do you have anything to do with this? Spectacular news. And Richard Shippey just wrote 100 fire emojis. Oh yeah. So what's interesting to see is all of this amazing staff that Bionano Genomics bring into the team. So from our senior management team, we have people who have come from Affymetrix, we have people who've come from Tesla, we have Alka Childbay who's come from Perkin, where she has a background of focusing on innovation and launching these amazing products, as well as our chief commercial officer who's helped develop, companies from $8 million in revenue to over $225 million. Even Shippey co-founding Cradle Genomics. And we've even poached some of these staff members from Illumina. And if you've seen how Illumina has grown over the years, why would these guys leave Illumina for Bionano Genomics, which was considered a penny stock? Even looking at our board of directors, we've also poached, vice president and chief scientific officer at Illumina from 2000 to 2007. Who is this mysterious man, David L. Barker? We've got this world-class team that all have a history of success. Now recently I was showing you guys Bionano Laboratories. I was talking about ALOT in terms of running testing, C19 testing, and the Abbott Binox Now products. Some of you guys hit me up and you were like, yeah, you know what, FSHD1 coming soon, and you were telling me how they're utilizing this and paving the way for our CLIA labs. But I also think that we're going to have products, we're going to be running testing, because I think C19 is here to stay. And looking at this, these testing reports are going to be needed for several industries. We're not only talking about, the workplace, universities and colleges and schools, but we're also talking about travel. You need proof that you've been tested and proof that you're not infected. If you click open this C19 test report on bionanolaboratories.com, the page will come up and you can see what the display looks like. This test report will basically show if you're negative, positive, invalid tests, or a cancelled test. So what I'm guessing is going to happen is, because we're having this kind of mass screening, this mass testing, and in order for us to reopen economies, they're saying that everybody must consistently test to avoid outbreaks in the future. If you want to travel, if you need to go to work, there are certain workplaces that are barring people from working, if you're not going to be testing, or some people, if you haven't even had the vaccine, you cannot work. I was seeing a video today of you need a vaccine passport in order to eat at certain restaurants and go or eat at McDonald's, and you're carrying around like this vaccine passport, and people getting refused service because of that. So with Biden agreeing this budget and spending $500 and something million for Abbott, I actually think we're going to be serving a range of products, not just Abbott for C19 testing, and Bionano Laboratories, Lineagen. I think there's going to be several springing up all over the place, and because there's so many variants and it keeps evolving, we could also be collecting data on this as well as selling these tests. Reason being was we were one of the first to be utilized to support largest study on date into C19 disease susceptibility. That was March 31st, 2020, and this was to look to the reason as to why people were affected more than others? How come some people get really sick with this disease and others have no symptoms at all? So bionano genomics was also part of this C19 host genome structural variation consortium. And what they wanted to do was research on the issue, focusing on studying genomic factors that affect the different stages of the disease, from infection to progression to recovery. They were using bionano Sapphire optical genome mapping to actually look at 37 critically ill C19 patients. So in terms of this consortium of people, we can see Augusta University here, we can see universities in the UK, we have University of Northampton, Nottingham here, lots of American universities. We also have certain companies, Perkin-Elmer is there, we have Genooks over here, as well as a university in the Philippines, UP Diliman. So what has all of this got to do with Bngo? Can they make some money from this? Well, we saw Ravindra Kohli from Augusta University talking about how saliva can be more effective than nasopharyngeal swabs for C19 testing. I also saw Alka Chowdhury's name here. This was another article in July 2021. I saw Alka Chowdhury's name in here, and they were looking for clinical validation of a sensitive saliva test for C19, and they wanted to utilize this for mass surveillance. So one of the things I like to do is go on LinkedIn and check out their profile and just see what they've been up to before in the past. So for our beloved Alka Chowdhury, if you scroll down here, Chief Medical Officer, and you click on this link, this is part of the experience section on LinkedIn. This article will pop up and you can open it and check it out. So when Alka came to bionano genomics, we can see here the article was written on her saying she's a key opinion leader in cytogenetics who has developed, validated and commercialized dozens of molecular and cytogenetic tests based on next generation sequencing, microarray, and listen here, C19 RT-PCR. She has led to the FDA clearance of diagnostic tests. So with her developing and bringing all these products to market, do you think it's going to be long before they bring their own testing product to market? Or even so, why wouldn't this be a good cash flow for us to actually run tests? You know, we're not just selling this as over-the-counter stuff. I think one of the tests when they were looking at mass surveillance, Ravindra Kohli and his colleagues were talking about this pooled testing, where they were talking about mass surveillance as schools reopen, travel and tourism resume, and people return to offices. Another statement that he provided was talking about monitoring being a public health need, and it's going to remain a public health need. So in order to go on holiday, you're going to have to prove, you know, you've either been vaccinated, or you're also going to prove, you know, you don't currently have C19, you're not infected. In order to go to universities and schools, maybe even to go to work. Also in some workplaces, we're testing, you know, twice a day. We're testing before a shift, we're testing after a shift. So if this is going to be part of society, and if there's so many different variants, and if it's going to keep evolving and more variants coming through, with infection rates continuing to soar, are we going to have this as a normal part of society where you're going to have to continue to test and prove that you're not infected? For example, in the UK, they were saying this is one of the expenses. Every time you go on holiday, there's these NHS travel tests, and now they're trying to reduce the price because the price of the PCR was just extortionate. And apparently before, private testing for PCR was sometimes even more than £200 a pop at some clinics, some people paying up to £500, with airline companies like Delta Airlines saying that they're going to make unvaccinated workers pay up to like $200 monthly surcharge. Are we also going to see regular testing for staff members across so many industries? That being said, all the tests that are done, are we going to be collecting data? So optical genome mapping with Sapphire was used to identify the structural variants that can explain why some people get very ill from C19 and others don't even get sick. At the other side of that, why would people need data? Well, there are certain drug manufacturers, Pfizer and Merck, that are launching new trials into oral C19 drugs. So are pharmaceutical companies willing to pay for data that could help them develop products or drugs that is going to increase the amount of money they can make? Maybe they'll try and develop products that are going to stop you getting infected, or they're going to make products that they claim can stop you from dying. Nobody knows, but if they're devoting, you know, time and they're devoting money and resources to making trials of oral drugs for C19, of course they're going to want data. Now finally, let's talk about bionano genomics. When it hit $15 a share, I made this video and I was currently looking on here. I don't know if you're able to see it or if the camera's blurry. I was on Fintel back in February. So February 16th, I popped onto Fintel. I was looking at Vanguard Group, and it says here their average was $1.86 and they had 7 million shares, 7.1 million shares. And today, if you take a look at the Vanguard Group, well, on the 13th of August, it stated they had 14.8 million shares. They didn't sell a single share. Instead, they increased by almost 60%, and now their average is $7.70. So this is one of the big boys. I'm going to show you another one as well, but I just want to show you some calculations. If they had it at $1.86 and the highest bionano genomics was, I think it was $15.69, that's an 8.4 times multiple right there. So the question is, if Vanguard thought that, you know, bionano genomics was overvalued, how come they didn't just cut out there? Why didn't they just take their money, 100% just exit their position at $15 a share and enjoy that multiple of 8 times? names. Okay, maybe that's just Vanguard, but let's take another look. So if we see here on this list, you'll be able to see Geode Capital Management, also at $1.86, 900,000 shares. And if we check today, so that was in February, if we check today, they did not sell their shares. Instead, they averaged up by 179%. They increased their holding. They now have 4.6 million, almost 4.7 million shares, and an average of $7.70 as well. So my question is, why didn't they sell their shares? Why didn't they enjoy it? If they had it at $1.86, why didn't they sell it at $15? That's my question. And I think if you go to the company, you go to Bionano Genomics Board of Directors and you scroll down to Christopher Twomey, this guy's history, I think the answer lies here. So if you pop open his history, you'll see that he served as the director and chairman of the audit committee of Tandem Diabetes Care. This guy had shares in them, right? So I want to show you what people can see when they analyze a company, when they believe in a company, and when they know stuff. So this guy, he was part of Tandem Diabetes Care, TNDM. Right now it's $125 a share, right? But this guy bought his shares. He bought 75,000 at $2. And when he bought the 75,000 shares at $2, he kept them for years. So he bought them on the 9th of February 2018. And the first time he sold them for a multiple of 40 times his money when he sold it at $80 per share. And he only sold a little segment as well. He waited 2 years for that. The 30th of April 2020 is when he made his first sale of 4,308 shares. He then sold a batch more at 90, a batch more at 100, a batch more at 110. And he even sold some recently, the 7th of September 2021, for $123 per share. So now that Christopher Twomey is part of Bionano Genomics as a director, just like these hedge funds who own it at almost $2 a share back then, they weren't willing to sell. And if they're actually averaging up and they were accumulating more shares and now they have an average of $7.70, it's because they're looking for multiples. Like I said, Christopher Twomey, he didn't sell at $10, he didn't sell at $20. This guy sold for a 40x his money. So that's just something I'm considering when I look at, Geode Capital, when I'm looking at, Vanguard, and I'm looking at BlackRock, for example, 18.3 million shares, increased their share ownership by 435%, $7.70 average again. So right now, Bionano Genomics is in the $5 range. I just want to see what the institutions do over the next quarters and see how they move. Are they going to be picking up more shares? Are they going to be selling? Are they averaging down in this time? I think we got to try and understand what the major plan is and what they value Bionano Genomics at and what they think it could become in the future. And when we look into Alka Chowbei's biography, and we see here over on Woolmine that her breadth of clinical experience spans an array of clinical indications, including constitutional disorders, NIPTs, non-invasive prenatal testing. If she's also put forward the FDA laboratory developed tests, submissions for C19 assays, and even the Bionano Sapphire-based test for FSHD, there's a whole lot of different products that they can earn money off in the future. We have all these top quality staff members, executives, directors. So with such a world-class team, how come people aren't just selling, a majority of their shares at $15? Why aren't they just cashing out? Particularly Christopher Twomey. So drop me your thoughts and ideas. I'm not sure, I'm not an expert. I love to hear feedback from you guys as well. I'm just trying to understand as much as you are. I'm putting some speculation out there. I'm making some guesses. I'm trying to put connections together as well. Please always remember, none of this is financial advice. It's for entertainment only. And I wish you the best. I wish you a lovely evening. And I'm going to catch you in the next video. And please give that like button a little tip. Mr. Oh goodness. Invest a lot. Over and out. Baby.